there's me. My name is Janelle, and I play the guitar in the band. And then there is Leona, who sings, Leanne, who plays bass, and Sophia, who plays the drums. So that's us, four of us. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you could classify our music at the moment, it's kind of alternative rock with psychedelic textures, a bit of punk thrown in there, and kind of a fusion of other genres, such as, I don't know, a bit of funk, disco. I mean, whatever influences us at the moment. Metal, now we're writing some songs, it's a slight metal element in it. But anyway, like, we don't limit ourselves, basically. Yeah, but the main genres are like, alternative rock, a bit of psychedelic, like elements in punk, kind of. Yeah, I mean, if you want to hear the story, here it is.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, actually. Yeah, so I mean, the original iteration of the band goes back 10 years, I guess, which is quite interesting. So three of us are originally from the island of Malta. I know there are like a lot of Maltese first generation and second generation Maltese people living in Australia. So yeah, we're basically we basically met at school, as one does, when we were like, I don't know, I've known Leona since we were like 4 years old, to be fair. But when we were 13, we decided to start a band for a school project where we had to, adapt a poem to music. And we kind of started a band at that point. It was under a different name and everything back in Malta. And yeah, we released some songs with kind of that project and stuff. But obviously at 13, like, people grow up and some people, decide that the band life isn't for them. And then when I was in high school, I met Leanne, who plays bass. And we kind of made friends. And at that point with that project, the bassist had left. So I was like, oh, fuck, we need a bassist. And yeah, Leanne was like a sessionist for like a year. And then after a year, we decided like to ask her if she wants to join the band. And yeah, we had a different drummer back then as well. And with that project, we wrote an album, we toured, kind of, it was the first kind of taste of what touring is like. But obviously we were like traipsing from one country to another because unfortunately in Malta, there's a really small scene, but obviously since it's it's a very, very small island, you can't really tour. So yeah, in 2018, we kind of decided that if we want to do something with music, we have to move out of the country. And at that point, Brexit was happening, and we were like, if we want to go to the UK, we have to go now, basically, else we're fucked. Because you have to go through the whole visa loop. I mean, it's like going to most countries, but since we're used to the European Union, it's like you don't think about this stuff. So yeah, we moved in 2019 over different periods of time, and at that point that drummer had left as well, as you can hear. as you might have guessed, a lot of people ditch us, but anyway. I mean, it's not for everyone. Again, it's a big ask to ask someone like, hey, would you move to another country for a band? Maybe this works out, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, yeah, and at that point we had begun looking for like drummers in the UK. And I remember I was on this group on Facebook group, and yeah, I basically, was scrolling down and someone had recommended Sophia. So yeah, I pulled a stalker move or a catfish move. I messaged her. I'm like, hi, do you play drums or something? Because at that point we were going on tour for a week in the UK as a test, kind of. This was 2018. And we didn't have a drummer because the drummer had left like 2 weeks before the tour. So I was like, hi, we have an upcoming tour. Do you want to join us as a sessionist? You don't know us, but whatever, you can come and join us on tour. And I don't know why, but she said yes to these random people from Malta who just messaged her on the internet, basically. And the first time that we played together was the actual gig. So she could have been, yeah. So, thankfully it worked out, because otherwise we would have had a whole tour planned, and it would have been awkward as fuck, basically. So yeah, and that's where kind of the band, this lineup of the band kind of how it came about. And in 2019, when we finally moved, we decided to change the name and kind of start a new chapter, and that's where GENN comes from. GENN basically, it's a Maltese word as well. It means craziness, because obviously, a lot of people back home were like, guys, you're crazy for doing all of this. It's like, embracing the craziness, basically, reclaiming the word. So yeah, that's the story of the band. And now we're here.
Well, that's beautiful. Sorry, excuse me. So this, when you talk about the debut and I guess your tour, was this off the back of Titty Monster?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Oh God, you did your research. Yeah.
So has the sound changed a lot, as I guess there have been holes, mostly the drums, but has your sound evolved even in those few years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because to be fair, we kind of consider GENN to be, I mean, it's obviously still related to Cryptic Street, but it's kind of a very new, it's a new chapter, and kind of, yeah, the sound is quite different. I mean, at the moment, we still play some songs from Titty Monster, since we're still writing an album for GENN. So yeah, I mean, we love that project a lot, obviously. But I mean, at that point, we wrote it when we were like 18. So, and now we're 25. So obviously, you grow, you evolve as a person. And I think our current music very much reflects that. Yeah, but I think Titty Monster, I mean, it captured a moment in time. Yeah, that's a very poetic way of putting it.
Especially when it's an album with a title called Titty Monster.
Yeah, exactly. Captures a moment in time.
Yeah, so I was hearing so I hear sort of a bit of Babes in Toyland, Bikini Kill in your stuff, and you've also sort of gone through the other genres that you're exploring. Do you have any sort of major influences for the band?
As kind of, I mean, I went through a lot of, genres when I was like, explaining the kind of the sound, because it's a bit hard to pinpoint. Just because I think all of us listen to very different stuff, like, I don't know, ranging from God metal to dub to whatever, to electronica, to rock. I mean, to be fair, I think at this point in time, the least kind of genre that we listen to is like rock, which is very funny. But yeah, I mean, I think we draw influences from a lot of places. Like, apart from the whole, music spectrum, we also are influenced by like life experiences and visual references, movies, books, kind of philosophical discussions between us. I think both Cryptic Street and GENN are very much kind of a sisterhood, and that's how I can explain it. We're like a family, or a marriage of some sort. So it's like, our discussions influence our music, So yeah, I guess with yeah, I mean, I guess a couple of bands that kind of influenced us in general. I don't know. I guess for me personally, Warpaint were always a big influence. I don't know if you're familiar with their stuff, but to be fair, I guess when I was like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, I didn't see a lot of women playing guitars at that point in time. I mean, this was like more than 10 years ago now. And I clearly have this reference in my mind when I was watching Glastonbury on TV, because I was always kind of into music and stuff. And at some point, Warpaint popped up. I didn't know about them, obviously, at 11. But when I saw like women playing guitars surrounded, you know, because all the other bands were basically a lot of men, I was like, whoa, you know, I was like, this is something else. And I mean, I still follow them. Actually, we're going to see them in London in May. So yeah, they were kind of, you know, one of the earliest influences, because, you know, you always need role models, and that was something that was very lacking in Malta, especially. I mean, I think at this point we're still one of the only few musicians who kind of identify as like active musicians who identify as women. So from that, from, you know, from the Maltese music scene. So that's a bit, you know, yeah, sad. So I guess, you know, having Warpaint as role models was really kind of, you know, a big thing back then.
Absolutely. Stella's amazing. She actually, or maybe she moves around a lot, but she has been living in Melbourne.
Really, Stella?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's Australian.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, she was constantly on tour at a point with different artists. I had the chance to see them in 2016 before they stopped touring. And it was a great experience, you know. We met them as well. I was like, yeah, I was like a fangirl, and I don't know, I told them something like, hi, we're big fans, or something like cheesy like that.
Everyone has to have those moments. Yeah, so you say Malta was a little lacking in scene, and now you're based in Brighton, UK. So what is Brighton's scene like? I was also wondering, I guess this is a yes, I'm giving you two questions at once, but does it piggyback off London? That was the only other thing that I was thinking.
Okay, all right. Yeah, of course. I mean, just to give your listeners an overview, Brighton is kind of 1.5 hours, 2 hours away from London by train. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of, you know, kind of back and forth between Brighton and London. In fact, one of the reasons that we chose to move to Brighton out of all the cities in the UK was basically that it's, you know, it's a small city, but at the same time, it's very close to London, which obviously has a massive music scene. Yeah, but Brighton is actually very well known for its music scene, especially here in the UK. There's always stuff going on every night. There's a good community of musicians, promoters, kind of everyone knows everyone. So it's kind of not easy, but it's easy to get embedded in the scene. But obviously, since there are like a lot of really talented musicians, because there are like, I don't know, 4 music schools over here as well, 4 music universities, it's like you have to, you know, go that extra bit to stand out from the crowd. But obviously, like from the very beginning, like as soon as we moved here, we were constantly between Brighton and London in order to, you know, kind of have access to both cities and the scenes in both cities, because that was very important to us, not to get stuck in one place again, because we had obviously experienced that with Malta. and the limitations, because since it's an island, you have to fly out every time. So we were like, okay, like we need to diversify our audience from the very beginning. Yeah, so yeah, Brighton is a pretty cool city, actually. Yeah, if your listeners ever visit the UK, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I used to live in London, and on weekends I'd catch a train down and hang out and not have any plans and just
yeah, that kind
a
of
beer
city.
and duck in and out of establishments.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fun little place, and very I agree, very artsy. Sorry. Yes, so now, do you like to identify with female bands, or are you fine? Like, do you sort of like to lean that way into being part of the femme scene, or would you prefer to be in a mixed bag?
I guess, I mean, that's a bit of a, not loaded question, but for example, at this point in time, we see ourselves as part of a larger scene, just because of the fact that if we keep segregating women into a particular scene, I think is part of the problem. Like, I think women in bands need greater visibility, like all across the board. For example, you still see major festival lineups with like a lot of men. I mean, things are changing, but still, I think we have to normalize the fact that women want that kind of lifestyle, that women, can be successful in the music industry, not as like pop artists, but, as producers, as, band members, as, tour managers, rather than seeing it as an exception. I mean, we're very, very grateful for kind of the femme music scene in London, especially. There's like Loud Women, for example. They're doing a lot for artists, to have that, for female identifying artists to have that kind of space. Because for so long, a lot of artists were ignored. So kind of it felt like it's a grassroots movement, to gain greater visibility. But I think at this point in time, as a band, kind of we're at that stage where we're kind of crossing over to the other side, because that we need to, because of career progression. And you still see that there's a glass ceiling when it comes, for example, certain booker is choosing an X amount of female artists and then kind of limiting the number or whatever. Or being like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird situation at this point, because people are trying to be politically correct, but at the same time still imposing certain limitations. Or like, for example, certain people get chosen just because they tick a box, rather than because it's normal for women to get it's so weird. It's like yeah, it's like, I think at this point there's a lot of box ticking, when in reality there needs to be a change in the whole mentality of the music industry. But obviously that takes time. Yeah, I mean, that's a very long answer for your question, but I think we're in a particular period of history where kind of a lot of people still see it as like, oh, women on stage, and other people, might put certain people on just to tick a box, which is also very harmful, because but yeah, hopefully that changes, and the whole women on stage, what should we do kind of mentality just gets thrown in the trash can, because it's exhausting, honestly, when you're like trying to fight your way through the industry. But
I could imagine, especially on in a new country, trying to establish yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is that where you can see the support of Loud Women? And I guess to explain it to the audience, it's an international advocacy group now for women in music and promoting women in music. And so you played Ladyfest, the annual concert last year. That's correct? Yeah.
Yeah, we played Loud Women Fest. Yeah, it's an annual kind of festival that the premise basically shows that there are actually women in bands that people can, that other promoters can book for other festivals. Yeah, so that's kind of the whole premise of the whole idea. Apart from it being kind of a really, really fun showcase where you feel actually connected to the other artists, and it's a community basically.
Yeah. And are you so it's a community, so it's something you're happy that it exists and assists, hopefully
Yeah.
breaking down those class ceilings.
Yeah, I mean, I think Loud Women as a group was really seminal in, for example, breaking artists like Nova Twins and Dream Nails as well. I mean, that's where they kind of first got their exposure when other promoters or whatever were saying no, for example. Yeah, and to be fair, I think Loud Women was one of the first promoters to actually put us on when we moved to the UK, and even when we toured and stuff. I mean, there were other promoters, mind you, who were supportive, but yeah, Loud Women were kind of one of the very first to actually see some sort of potential. So kind of a lot of people are actually very grateful that they exist, because as I told you, there are actually breaking artists that are now playing festivals like, I don't know, Reading and Leeds, where before, you wouldn't see women on that particular festival up till a few years ago. So they're doing, a good job, basically.
Yeah. And well, you guys are also very busy as well. You've had Liminal out last year. Would you like to talk us through that and like recording and where you're at? Because I know some artists who released in 2021 are sort of yet to fully introduce it to the world with tours and stuff. Anyway, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, so we actually wrote Liminal in 2020. In 2020. And we wrote it kind of remotely, just because of the, whole lockdown situation. So we had this idea that we wanted to release the material in 2020, but obviously, it wasn't gonna happen because of the pandemic and stuff. So we wrote it remotely, and we managed to write how many tracks are there? I forgot how many tracks there are. I think 6 tracks.
Yeah,
I believe 6 tracks on the EP. Actually, we only kind of had the chance to meet, I don't know, 3 or 4 times before the actual recording. Just because we went straight out of lockdown and into the studio. So yeah, I don't know how, it's like another, one of another crazy situation. And we recorded that in July 2020, and then we obviously had to wait a bit because we hoped that things would get better. In the meantime, we released a couple of singles and stuff. And we released it in March 2021, so nearly a year ago. And off the back of that, we managed to do a tour in October, November. We only missed one date, which is kind of amazing considering that a lot of people were canceling because of COVID. And I think we did around 30 shows last year during the last quarter of the year, which is very good considering the whole pandemic, the fact that people, were like constantly canceling because of COVID and, restrictions changing and stuff. So thankfully we did manage to tour. Yeah, and kind of at the moment we're obviously still gigging, though not as much as we did in October, November, because we basically did 30 shows in a month and a half while we still have day jobs. What? And it was fully like self-funded, fully self-driven. So we didn't have a tour manager. Sophia was our tour manager. She drove us around. We booked it ourselves, and we managed to support a lot of really good artists. So we spent a year pestering people basically to put us on. And yeah, off the back of that, we got a booking agency now. So, all that work paid off kind of because they saw that we were actually doing stuff ourselves, going over and above. And yeah, now we have quite a lot of dates planned, but at the moment, since we're kind of, planning to record an album in, May, June, July, kind of, we're trying to focus as much as possible on the writing. But yeah, I mean, it's going. Let's put it that way.
We are very busy people. I mean, you've still got you've got a few festies coming up. We've got
we've got festivals and stuff.
Reading, and then Bristol's first, isn't it?
Yep, that's in April.
Out of Town Fest.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah.
And then Long Division in Wakefield.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we have quite a busy couple of months ahead, let's put it that way. I guess the greatest challenge at the moment for us individually is, balancing everything, our personal lives, our day jobs, the band kind of, and seeing that it grows, to a point that we can actually live off it. So, I mean, it's stressful, but exciting at the same time, because, you have to do the work in order for your dreams to become a reality, in a way, as cheesy as that sounds. But
yeah. So what can we expect from the next record? I assume it will be vastly different with Sophia on the drums this time.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it's kind of an evolution of Liminal. That's how I would explain it. So Liminal was kind of our first record where we were all together. But I think this time around, we obviously have much more of a clear idea of what we want the sound to be like. We actually have, the luxury of meeting up in person, unlike, the other record where we had to do most of the stuff online. So I think, people can expect a mishmash of different music styles. It's maybe a bit more experimental than, our previous stuff. And I think, again, this captures a moment in time of us at this point over these next couple of months. And yeah, I hope it signifies an evolution in general, and I do hope people like it and people kind of get on board with maybe a more experimental sound. And that's the teaser.
It's a good one. So you're saying maybe October-ish.
No, probably we have to release it next year.
Next year. Okay.
Yeah, just because of the whole vinyl situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're aware, but because of, the pandemic and now the war in Europe and everything else, vinyl is and because major artists are also pressing vinyl now, like, Adele and Ed Sheeran, they basically booked all the vinyl plans. Thank you, Adele. um, so yeah, it's basically taking close to 9-10 months for smaller artists to get their vinyl pressed, which is crazy. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh gosh.
So
I did not know
next
about
year.
the vinyl shortage. I mean,
Yeah.
that should be on the news.
Yeah, it's a big thing at the moment because a lot of people had to obviously move their release dates. And yeah, kind of we're probably we have to release it in next year, but at the same time we're planning to release singles this year and support them by touring as much as possible, so as to to basically give the album a good shot at reaching as many people as possible after all. So trying to make the best out of the shitty situation.
Absolutely. I think that's like what you have to do at the moment. Like that's just life. Take what you can
Exactly.
get.
Else you just don't do anything basically, because it's like basically one thing after another in it. It's like first COVID, now the whole political situation in Europe. It's like what else?
Oh, we've
But
got
yeah,
massive floods in Australia as
really.
well.
Oh, I had no idea because I mean, obviously,
Yeah, it'd be all war, I would imagine.
yeah, over here.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear. I hope everyone
It's
is
climate
doing.
change.
Yeah, a lot of basically, bullshit in the mix. I hope at least, it serves as inspiration for. It's not funny at all, but it's
Taking
like
care of each other.
yeah. Plus, it serves as inspiration for new music in a way. That's
Yeah,
'cause artists,
absolutely.
I guess, get inspired by turbulent times. So yeah, serving
Yes.
as kind of, you know,
Yeah.
commentary on the current generation, basically.
All right. Well, I think that will just wrap
Yeah,
us up, because if I go any longer, we'll probably get kicked off.
yeah, it happens. Zoom lady will kick us out.
Yeah. So Janelle, what I would like to do is could you request a song that you'd like to be played with your little our little chat? And as you would know, haven't given you any notice or anything like that. So just off the top of your head, someone you'd recommend.
Yeah, I guess because we mentioned war paint, right? Maybe I don't know, something from The Fool, which is War Paint's first album, because that was the first album that I heard back then, and yeah, it's still very influential. So yeah, something of that album would be great.
Great. Did you have a favorite track?
Composure, maybe. It's called Composure.
Yeah. Cool. Composure, War Paint, done. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll include that.
Rapping Aussies, because is from Australia as well.
Yeah. Well, so we'll include that in the
Cool.
episode, and we look forward to hearing more from you. So to catch up, actually, with yourself and the rest of GENN, how do we find you in the wide world of internets?
Yeah, I mean, we're, on all the socials. It's called, it's GENN. Our handle everywhere is like Gen the Band. So you can find us everywhere. Have a website, Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok, as Leanne hates TikTok, Twitter, yeah, and Google, I guess. You can Google us and you'll find us.
Okay, great.
Spotify, all the streaming platforms.
Yeah, talking about Spotify, just one little tid note before we might get kicked off. Does it help? I noticed you have a little pay a contribution to GENN on Spotify. Is that something you were able to instigate?
Yeah, I think they introduced it as a feature in 2020.
Okay.
And it stayed there because whoever wants to donate to us, we won't say no. Yeah, I mean, I guess, people have a have a weird relationship with Spotify, but at the same time, it's a necessary evil at this point because people like us, we can't really do without it, unless you're, I don't know, Taylor Swift or whatever, some really, popular artist. You can't really, let's face it. It's the way the system is at the moment. So as much as we like to be, punks and rebels, at the same time, you need people to hear your stuff. So
yeah, is it helpful? That you were the first.
I mean, people like you found us on Spotify, so yeah, I mean, we got gigs because people heard us on Spotify. A&R is reaching out because they heard us on Spotify. So I see it more of a marketing tool, if that makes sense, rather than I don't expect anyone to get a paycheck, at the end of the month from Spotify. But, it leads to opportunities, I guess.
Yeah. Great way to end that.
Yeah.
And well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So I've got you up at a bright and early 9 a.m. GMT time. So I hope you have a lovely it's Thursday?
Wednesday.
Oh,
because we're a day. It's a Thursday. Fuck. It's already.
Yeah, we'll have a great Thursday.
Okay.
I can tell you it's been a good day.
I guess. God, it's so crazy, these time changes. It's like a quasi sci-fi in a way, like, time traveling and stuff.
Yeah, it totally is. So, yeah. Thursday's been good to me, so I hope it's good to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. Hope we get to catch up,
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. I am planning to get over to see my friends in England.
Okay.
Maybe not this year. Well, probably not this year, but soon. So I'd love to catch a gig.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care.
Take good care.
I look forward to watching your progression. All right. Thanks, Janelle.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.